pressure I want. So if I'm suddenly going to go over something that's got a heavy bump to it when I'm sewing it, let's sew something over here that's got a heavy bump to it. Well, before I get to the bump, I'll lift up this foot just a little bit, and now that foot is going to roll over that bump a lot easier, right? So you can adjust it when you go over the heavy bump, okay? And then when you're off the bump, you can always just push it down a little bit to give it a little bit more grabbing space. The other time you might adjust this is when we're getting into puckering, and we were talking about that earlier. What you end up doing is you push this button down all the way if you got puckering in your fabric, and see if that eliminates the problem. If that doesn't just eliminate the problem, then you might go to your tension and loosen it up, because it could be the tension that's causing it on that particular fabric that you're working with. So go half up, half down. Okay, next thing, on this particular machine, the machine is color coded. You've got reds, browns and yellows and greens, browns, yellows and greens, brown, yellows and greens, and thing. So this particular machine, this is your stitch length, big stitches, small stitches, depending on the dial, right? And we talked about the right stitch length. Okay, and on here we're on straight sew, but also right beside it is the yellow, and that yellow represents a stretch stitch, which is this S, this triangle, and the L. This means a short stretch stitch, this means a long stretch stitch. I generally tend to go to the longer stretch stitch, makes it easier for what it does. And what this will particularly do is it'll sew, this machine sounds so good. It'll sew 2 stitches forward, 1 backwards, 2 stitches forward, 1 backwards. On this particular stitch, it's actually sewn it 3 times opposed to once, so it's reinforced it. So if you got your orange, and the yellow part of that is the stretch stitch. Now, if you want to do any of these other patterns, you just turn that to that particular pattern, put it on the lawn, and then you're going to get, I believe it's this one we're doing, yeah, and you're going to get that particular cover stitch. There, and there's a nice little cover stitch that's there, that particular one. So you just change your dial to whichever one that you might want. This machine runs beautiful. You can just hear and feel a machine when you're sewing. Okay, so now the other aspect is you got the greens. The green ones is just a version of the regular ones. It's 3 stitches over, 3 stitches back. Basically, you're going to use straight stitch, you're going to use zigzag, and you'll probably end up doing buttonholes, and you might use the stretch stitches or whatever. These other stitches to me are redundant, but whatever they put them in there, it's there. Okay, buttonhole. Buttonhole is the green aspect of it. You can see it's a little bit thicker there on this side here. In order to activate the buttonhole, is you got the green here. You have one symbol that's pointing down, one symbol that just shows you the exact buttonhole, but with these tacks on it, and you got one buttonhole that shows you that it's going opposite way. So we're going to start off with this one here, and you would actually put on a buttonhole foot, but you can actually do it without it. But if you put on a buttonhole foot, it'll make your measuring a lot easier. Okay, so we're on this one here. We're going to go forward, and it sews up one side. Then I'm going to turn this dial right over to the tack side, which does the top. Okay, do a few stitches, not too many in the tack part, because it could get caught in the foot. You don't want to over sew the tack. And then you turn this dial, and it goes down back the other side. Right? Once you got the other side, then you turn it over and do the tack again. Okay, and you lift it up and think. And here's your buttonhole. It shows you in there, and you just cut a hole in the middle, and you got yourself your buttonhole. Okay, there. Go back to regular sewing. We just turn the dial to regular sewing, take it on, put it on wherever I feel is comfortable. Okay, one last tip I'm going to tell you here, and everybody, this will stop a lot of frustration. And this last tip is, I've been doing this for 44 years, and I've seen a lot of experienced operators have the same habit, and I tell them about it, and they go, oh my God, I've been doing it wrong. Anyway, this is what you end up doing. A lot of operators, experienced or not, what they do when they're finished sewing is they put their needle up, they lift up the foot, and they pull a super long strand and put the thread behind there. And the reason why they pull a long strand, because sometimes when you're sewing, this thread actually gets pulled right out of the needle. And then you got to rethread it, and you're going, "Arr." Well, here's the secret. All right. Whenever you're finished sewing, you never put your needle all the way up. You put your take-up lever up. If this take-up lever is all the way up, I can take this, I can cut about an inch of thread off there, so it's nice and short, put it down there, and I can start sewing, and the thread's not going to get pulled out of my needle. Or, when you're finished sewing, you never put your needle all the way up. You put your needle up and starting to come down. As it starts to come down, your take-up lever will be at the top, and you don't have to worry about the thread pulling it out. Because you can see, when your needle is all the way up, your take-up lever is here, and you're going to start, and it's going to pull it out. So if you always make sure that this is to the top when you pull it out, you're not going to have to worry about the thread being unthreaded while you're sewing. Reverse is here on this button. Okay. On this particular machine too, you have this little dial here. It says plus and minus. Don't touch it. No. You don't need to touch it. Basically, it's going to balance off your buttonhole so that it's the same density on the one side or the other side. Never have to adjust it. They're always fine. I personally don't even know why they give the operator option to even think about it. Okay, and that concludes the Kenmore 10-stitch stitch selector basics 1, 2, 3 of sewing. Hope that takes away any frustration that you might have, and I'm quite sure you'll enjoy sewing a lot more with those little tips and trips. Thank you.
Thank you.